Something magical, short of a miracle, happened a month later. So I was at home late at night, watching TV, dark all around me, and I receive a call at 11:30 p.m. The phone rings, and she says, "Oh my God, this is Amedeo. I want to leave a message for you. This is Sarah Jessica Parker,
the TV star.
The star of Sex and the City when it was a TV series, not the movie yet." And she was literally, in that moment, that night when she called, the most influential movie star, TV star, before influencers even existed,
Before
which is
influencers
very
even
important.
existed.
Well, it's incredible because it feels like 20 years, but it's like only 10, and it's crazy.
Best Italian jewelry designer winner is Faraone Mennella e Amedeo Scognamiglio.
Un premio ambito che davvero ci riscalda il cuore.
I'm Carlo Pignataro, and this is a new episode of Lux Friends. The story you're about to hear is a fairy tale, a case history, and a dream come true. An American dream. Amedeo, thank you for joining me today.
I'm so happy to be here with you.
Likewise, it's been 20 years.
Carlo, we met 20 years ago. We were young jewelry people.
We were. Amedeo, your story is quite extraordinary. I'm very excited for you to share it with our audience. Let me just start by saying that your family history in jewelry dates back 150 years in Torre del Greco with the creation of amazing cameos, but evolved in completely different direction in New York with the birth of Faraone Mennella, the fine jewelry brand.
Yes, it's a very interesting story because, as you said, it starts in a small village in the South Italy region of Campania, Torre del Greco, where my family has been carving cameos and corals since 1857, which is quite extraordinary in today's world. 6 generations of craftsmanship. And that's where I learned my craft in my family company studio, carving cameos. I started to carve cameos actually when I was like 13, 14 years old.
Wow.
And it was really a vocational moment because my brothers don't carve cameos. So I really wanted to do it. But then many years later, when I was 21, 22 years old, I decided to move to New York for different reasons. And New York gave me everything, the push to evolve the craft of cameos, which is very important because otherwise it would have stayed stale and something like as a souvenir of Italy or grandma's jewelry. Well, New York gave me the opportunity to open up to a different world and so develop the new cameos, more contemporary, because I wanted my friends in New York to wear them, not just saying like, I love cameos. Oh my God, my grandma had one. That was my kiss of death, right? And that was about New York, about the cool, hype New York of the late 90s, beginning of 2000s. And then in New York, with Roberto Faraone Mennella.
Okay, because you didn't move to New York alone.
I did not move to New York alone.
So tell us the full story.
So my best friend and partner, Roberto and I, moved to New York in the late 90s. Roberto decided to continue his studies, devoting his life to design, because we both studied, actually, that's a fun fact, law school in Naples, as our families wanted us to do it. I gladly finished it and moved on to work with my family company in Cameos. And Roberto, he was struggling in something, studying something he didn't like because he was an incredibly talented designer. And so I convinced him during a summer vacation in New York to just drop out from law school, because sometimes you really have to take some strong measures, right? And follow his dream. And we started looking around at the universities and design schools, and he was accepted at the famous Parsons School of Design, where he studied his bachelor in design and marketing for the next few years. At the same time, I moved in New York because I finished my law degree. And so we lived in the moment where I really didn't know what I was doing. I was trying to sell Cameos door to door almost, my father's company, but mostly to make some money to live in New York. And Roberto was studying. In the meantime, we were like living the life of two, early 20s, young Italians in New York City, meeting a lot of people and living our life really separated from our centuries-old traditions of the South Italy, our social constraints, family expectations, and designing our own life together in New York. This brought us a few years later when Roberto finished his school to start a company together in jewelry. And the fact that it was jewelry, obviously, it was precisely and strategically designed because I was coming from the jewelry industry, so I knew kind of the tools and the
tricks
and the tricks of the trade. And Roberto's coming from a very prestigious university and college of design, had just studied everything that was necessary to start a brand. I remember the day he said, do you know how to create a press kit? Do you have a brand presentation? I said, I don't have anything about that. And we were talking about my Cameo business. So when he finished the school, he said, I don't want to work for a big company. I don't care. I don't want to be, a 9 to 5, and then I want to make photocopies. I want to design. Let's start a company together. And it's a beautiful story, actually, now that I remember it, because he summoned me, although we were living together. He asked me to meet him at a Starbucks coffee shop on 52nd Street and 8th Avenue one day. He said, meet me there at 11. I have to talk to you. So I went there, very surprised because, we were living together. So he was sitting there in the corner table on 52nd and 8th. I go in and he's very down to business. And he sits down and says okay, I have a proposal for you. We start a company together because if we don't, I have to go back to Italy. I don't have a visa. And if we want to stay together in New York, we need to do something together. And he also added, I know there is also your dream to do something besides your family business, something new. So this is our chance. We can do a new jewelry business that's not about Cameos, but it's a fine jewelry, but with the eyes of a designer. So we realized actually that fine jewelry, Italian fine jewelry was still something very traditional. Jewelry stores had a beautiful strand of pearls and a beautiful diamond ring, and they were selling for special occasions to the husbands. We wanted to bring the Italian craftsmanship in fine jewelry, but as a collection. So high jewelry, but almost fashionable, presented fashionable, designed fashionable in collections and not as standalone pieces, and sell it to Bergdorf Goodman. That was our only dream and our only obsession.
So the objective was clear. We make fine jewelry with an Italian taste and we sell it to Bergdorf Goodman.
Absolutely. And we stay in New York.
And you stayed in New York.
So Roberto graduates from Parsons School in 2000, in November 2000. Then in 2001, we incorporated our company, RFMAS, from our initials, Roberto Faraone Mennella, Amedeo Scognamiglio. And we start working on the collection. We start designing the collection. We start planning the launch of the brand. We were very bold. I have to say, when you're very young and a visionary, you don't see limits. I see more limits now that I am a sort of successful businessman, with a couple of decades of behind me. So now I see more limits than I saw at the time. At the time, we didn't care. We were designing a brand. We never said we're going to make some jewelry and sell it. We were out to design a brand, and we were out to sell this brand at Bergdorf Goodman, the most luxurious mecca of luxury in the world on New York, 5th Avenue and 57th Street, because that was the place we would often go to and admire the incredible creativity of the window designers, the famous windows on 5th Avenue of Bergdorf Goodman. So all we wanted to do was that. And if you had gone to anybody, you know, like business consultants or, you know, partners, even a bank, they would say like, you're crazy. I mean, you know, fly down, do some jewelry, start slow. You know, that's what people tell you. And that's what usually families tell you, of course, in a protective way. Your parents will say, oh, you know, don't fly too high. Oh, stay grounded. Oh, don't do that. But how do you do big things if you don't think big?
If you don't dream big.
And if you don't dream big.
So, November, December, you incorporate the company.
Yes.
What was the year?
We incorporated the company in the spring of 2001.
Okay, and then what happens?
And then what happens is that we put our $5,000 each. That's all we had into the bank account. With this $10,000, we said, okay, this has to last. This is everything we have. Nobody's going to give us money. So we start making jewelry. So we created this our signature collection. Still today, it's the bestseller, the Stella collection. Wow. These giant hoops in 18-karat gold and these long chains, all these open work, very sexy, very Italian 1970s. You know, we had in mind Sophia Loren and even, you know, other Italian actresses of those movies in the 70s and the 80s that the majority of the world wouldn't know. And we created these few pieces, 15 pieces. And then the gold was cheap then. So we wouldn't make with that kind of money 20 pieces today. So we make this, and during the summer, we create all the brand identity, the logo. The logo then from RFMAS becomes Faraone Mennella. And Faraone Mennella is Roberto's last name.
Yes.
And it was my decision, contrary to anybody's probably opinion, because I realized that RFMAS could be very difficult in America. Although Faraone Mennella is very difficult for Americans anyway.
But sounds very Italian.
But it sounds very Italian. It's Roberto's last name, but it's two words. So it still makes you think of two people.
Yes.
And it sounds, and that was our idea, as if established old house,
Absolutely.
Old jewelry
very
house, Faraone Mennella, very aristocratic. We used Roberto's family logo, that like coat of arms as a logo that we created, and then it becomes a very beautiful, chic element. At this point, the plan was to launch the jewelry in September 2001, Fashion Week in New York. By the time Roberto and I hadn't worked so much, but we had sort of partied a lot, meaning two young guys in New York. So we knew a lot of people. We had a lot of friends in the fashion industry, editors, other jewelry designers. So we had a sort of like a crowd of friends and followers who were waiting for this launch, and supporting us. So we couldn't wait to do this. The problem is that 9/11 happened that summer.
No way.
And we, watched the towers fall, and with them, our dreams collapsing. So, among everybody, there was this tragedy going on worldwide. Nobody was thinking about anything anymore. There was no business. There was survival, because we all knew that something even worse could happen or would happen. So it was really a survival mode, especially if you lived in New York. It was a moment of great sadness, reflection, a lot of supporting each other. I don't remember any other moment in time and place where people were really so united again.
Indeed.
So in the meantime, we had spent our $10,000 in the jewelry, and that was it. So we looked at each other. It was not even time to go and knock on the doors of Bergdorf Goodman. It was not in our mind remotely. So we decided, okay, we'll try to sell these pieces to friends and family recover the money, and then we'll see. Maybe we'll have to move back to Italy. But something magical, short of a miracle, happened a month later. So I was at home late at night, watching TV, dark all around me, and I receive a call at 11:30 p.m. The phone rings. I pick up the phone. Says, "Who's this?" And she says, like, "Hello, I'm so sorry." This like frantic voice of somebody who thinks is making an uncomfortable call late at night. Said, "I'm so sorry. I just wanted to leave a message on a voicemail. I thought this was an office because this was listed as an office, but it was my home." And I told this woman, I'm like, "I'm sorry, this is my home too. Who's this?" And she says, "Oh my God, this is Amedeo. I want to leave a message for you. This is Sarah Jessica Parker."
The TV star.
Well, the TV star, yes, but I thought it was a prank, of course, right? So I replied like, "Oh, come on, who's this?" And I started to actually call names of friends that would actually pull a prank on me. "Come on, this is Susan, stop it. Mary, don't do this." Until I realized from the voice, and when she said, "No, it's really me, Sarah Jessica Parker."
And sorry to interrupt you, Amedeo, but for the younger audience who may not be so familiar with the name, Sarah Jessica Parker at the time was the biggest star in the US.
She was the biggest
Sex and the
star
City, the TV series.
in the world. She was the star of Sex and the City when it was a TV series, not the movie yet. And she was literally, in that moment, that night when she called, the most influential movie star, TV star, before influencers even existed, which is very important. She was the influencer, and she was calling me. So we started to talk for a long time on the phone because she explained to me that she had a huge love for cameos. And during her honeymoon, her husband in Hawaii bought her a cameo in a small Korean jewelry shop, or maybe a department store where my father and I used to sell to. And she found this cameo and she loved it. She bought it. I mean, she took it home, and she was very happy to find out in the box that there was a company still crafting cameos. So I said, "Why do you like cameos so much?" And she told me the story. She said, "Because in my family, we were poor. We didn't have money, and we didn't have a jewelry collection. So my grandmother's cameo was the jewelry piece of the family. And it was the piece of jewelry that we kept borrowing and using, me and my three sisters and my mother, and passing along for anniversary, weddings, parties, sweet 16, proms, until weddings, because it was that one jewelry piece that united the family. So it had that romantic and sentimental value that it's only a family piece can do. Anyway, so this was her attachment to cameos.
Wow.
And she tracked me via, I would say, Hawaii, very strange. And she was so happy because she wanted to see the rest of the collection and show it to Patricia Field, her costume designer at Sex and the City. I didn't know who she was at the time. And so she said, "I want you to come to the studios next week and bring me the collection because we're going to use more pieces on Carrie Bradshaw."
So that's what you did.
No, I didn't, because she said, "Please take my number," which sounds something, you have a pen there and a piece of paper, right? And I said, so remember, this was not the smartphones moments in time. So I had a big fax machine phone with a long cord, extendable. So I'm looking for a pen, and I don't have a pen. So I'm looking for the pen in the dark, and I switched on light. And she said, "Did you find the pen?" No, I didn't find the pen. So I keep looking, finding the pen. Then I stretched this cord up to my kitchen to look into the kitchen if in some drawers I find a pen. I don't find a pen. So perceiving her initial frustration for being on the phone all this time, I lie and I say, "I found the pen," but I didn't. Because I'm thinking, she's going to give me a 212, the area code of New York City at the time, and then I'll try to remember the rest of the number. So I said, "Go ahead." And she starts giving me a million numbers. I remember when she went to the number 6, not the 6th number, telephone number, and she says, "This is my driver." I wanted to start, screaming like, "Why are you giving me your driver's number? I don't need your driver's number." So now I have all these numbers in my head. This is my office. This is my assistant. This is Patricia Field. This is the studio. This is my driver. At this point, she said, "Okay, now you have it all. Call next week and let's meet at the studios." Hang up. Goodbye. Nice to talk to you. I don't have any number. I fall on the floor. I just spoke to the biggest celebrity in the world. I have the biggest chance in the world for my not even newborn business. And I lost the number. That's it. Roberto starts screaming at me and says, like you, the typical Neapolitan, disorganized, you're always the same. You not even have a pen or a pencil. I can't believe this. But we both realized there was nothing else to do except for being upset at me for, 10 minutes because we had no other way to contact her. And even if I found a number, I could have not called and say, hello, like a stalker. "Hello, last night Sarah Jessica called me and my apartment, but I lost their number."
No one is going to believe it.
So we just forgot about it. We just said, okay, missed opportunity. A month later, we're in New York. We're still deciding what to do, trying to talk to people. And this gentleman from Italy, property manager, proposed us to take over a small shop on 64th Street and Park Avenue. Very prime location in New York. Very chic, very elegant. All the rich ladies of New York live there. And he said, "I'm going to give it to you because of the 9/11 situation for a stupid price. And there's only a little trick. It's not a commercial lease, so you have to pretend you live in like artists. But you have an incredible opportunity because you're on Park Avenue and 64th Street, and for your brand, this would be incredible. And I give it to you for $1,600 a month." $1,600 is nothing for a store to rent, right? In a location. But if you have nothing, everything means a lot. So Roberto was like, "We don't have money. We don't have a business. We don't have anything, any prospect to do business. So how can we sign a 10-year lease or even a 1-year lease for $1,600? Where do we get the money?" So I was the more bold of the two, and I wanted to take it, like, "No, come on, let's do it. It's going to be amazing. We're going to start the business from a little boutique. We're going to make it beautiful." So Roberto said no. I said yes. So then at dinner, we said, let's go to see it one more time tonight after dinner. If our grandmothers send us a sign from up above, this was our code and everything. We knew that we have the protection of our beloved grandmothers. If the nonnas up there give us a sign, we'll take it. If not, tomorrow we tell Giampiero we're not taking the place. Okay. So we walked. It was midnight. We walked from the restaurant, we had dinner, all the way to Park Avenue on the Upper East Side. When we get to 64th Street, it's interesting that it's New York. We're used to filmmaking in the streets everywhere, every corner. So there is lighting, like here in the studio. There's clearly a movie being shot, but we don't even care about it. We keep talking about our ideas, our life. So we go from Park Avenue, we enter 64th Street, we arrive on the door of this townhouse, which incidentally was Enrico Caruso's home in America when he moved from Naples, the famous Italian tenor,
all the
in the 1900s. A first sign. Then we go there, we looked at the door of this place, and Roberto says, "Ame, look there." So parked in front of this townhouse and the shop, there's a truck, like many others in the street, and it says on the door, "Sex and the City wardrobe." I look at it, and Roberto says, "This is exactly where Sarah Jessica Parker wanted you to go. This is the place she wanted you to meet, and the telephone numbers." So I'm shocked, and he says, like, "Go in and knock on the door." And I'm like, "But what am I going to say? Sarah Jessica Parker again called me." So he pushes me up on the stairs, and I knock on the door. I go back down this little ladder. The door opens immediately, and this woman with flaming red hair, a cowboy hat, cowboy boots, tight pants, a cigarette in her mouth. She looks at me from the top down. I'm there like, I don't know what to say. And she goes like, "What's up?" And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm Amedeo. Sarah just called me." I mumble things, convinced that she won't understand or she won't care, and because they don't make sense. And while I'm doing this, she takes another puff of the cigarette and she says, "Oh, what's up? You're the Cameo boy. What happened to you? We've been waiting for like weeks. You disappeared."
Unbelievable.
This woman was the famous, now award-winning, Oscar-nominated, Grammy Award winner, Emmy Award winner, everything, Patricia Field, the most influential costume designer of our time. And so she goes, "Come in." So I go in. She's like, "We've been waiting for you and the jewelry." They just wanted to have an entertainment for this young guy because they're waiting in the wardrobe trailer until the movie's done, the filming is done. And then she looks at Roberto outside and she's like, "Who's that cute guy?" And Roberto was like this gorgeous Italian boy with long blonde hair, very beautiful, very elegant. And it's like, "Oh, that's my friend Roberto." It's like, "Tell him to come in." It's like, okay. So the other costume designers gather around us. We talk about Sarah Jessica. And then they say, like, they turn to Roberto and says, "What do you do?" And she says, "Well, I design a jewelry collection with Amedeo, but it's not about cameos. It's not about cameos." Roberto didn't want to have anything to do with cameos. And not his aesthetics, as he used to say. It's gold and it's bold. And she says, like, "What is it?" And it's like, "Well, it's in my home in a roll." And she's like, "Go get it and show it to us. You have a big chance here." And it's well later than midnight. It's probably 1 o'clock in the morning. Roberto runs back 20 blocks, goes home, takes the jewelry, comes back while I wait in the trailer. And he comes back. They see this. Kim Cattrall, that was shooting the scene, comes back to change clothes, and she sees it. Patricia Field says, "We love this. This is perfect for Samantha Jones, the character, the blonde, sexy Samantha Jones." And so they say, like, "Okay, do you need these pieces? Can we keep some?" The reality is that we had nothing else to do. We couldn't say that, but we didn't have clients. We didn't have business and meetings, nothing. So we said, "Well, I mean, yeah, you can take it. You can take it. We have more." Meanwhile, that was all we had. And then we said, the only caveat is that for insurance purposes, we need to be with the jewelry at all time. And that was a trick.
Great move.
To be there. And so for the next few months, we basically hung out with the costume design department of Sex and the City and going on location where they were filming. They would say like, "Oh, tonight we're filming on 39th Street and 3rd Avenue. So we go there and we be with them and the crowds cheering, the fans. It was crazy, really, really crazy. I lived something that, sometimes when you live these special moments, you don't realize it until later. So anyway, we weren't even thinking how to monetize this. We were living the moment, really. So what happens is that when the first episode is about to come out on HBO on a Sunday, probably April, May, I don't remember. No, maybe the following September. There was a lot of expectation from the media, from the press, from America, because Sex and the City was the most influential TV show in the world, and definitely in America. And this was the season after 9/11. So the expectation and the pressure even on the writers was, how are these 4 girls in New York City living a silly life of dating and breaking ups and etc., how they will come back now to a different world?
Yeah.
What's going to be the message, at least at the beginning? They need to actually face the big elephant in the room. Something has changed. So this first episode called Anchors Away, because it was during Memorial Day weekend where all the Navy and the ships come and all the soldiers are in New York and, walking around. So the opening scene of this first episode is of the 4 girls walking in the city, in Union Square, chatting away, talking as usual. And then Samantha, Kim Cattrall, has a big headshot, big, zoom in into Samantha right, after 5 seconds of the opening scene, and is Samantha blinking at a soldier, as she would, the Navy boys, and she says, "Oh, it must be Memorial Weekend." And she's wearing this big Faraone Mennella Stella earrings, gold earrings. Boom. It was the biggest product placement any brand could ever dream of. Like, you have to pay them now to script it like that. It's like, boom, can you actually show the earring like that? Because she's kind of like going on a profile and blinking, and this earring, you just see her eye and the earring. It's incredible. From the next day, it's been a tornado.
What did you think when you saw it on TV?
We have never been after the money. So we didn't think...
Did you watch it live?
Yeah, we watched it live on
So you
Sunday
see your
night
jewelry
with friends.
appearing 5 seconds after the episode starts.
And
what did you think?
We thought, it was like a very emotional moment. Roberto was crying, actually. And it was almost like, oh my God, we do have a brand now. We did something. It was the moment when you realize, wow, we have something. It's not just like we're saying it, because there is a moment of I call it the imposter syndrome, that you start working. I mean, I remember for the beginning, I was kind of ashamed to say I'm a jewelry designer. It was a big word, right? I'm a jewelry designer. Well, really, what did you do? Do you have a store? Do you sell to here? No, we didn't have anything. But so saying it was like, oh my God, what should I say? But in that moment, that was the baptism. That was the consecration. We were jewelry designers, and we were actually famous jewelry designers already.
Indeed.
And because of that, the press started to eat us up alive, interviews, things. And the first one was WWD, which was the Bible of the luxury industry in America. It's still there, but before social media and before internet, it was all paper. And so they wrote this beautiful interview immediately. They sent us a famous photographer, to take our headshot, the first headshot we ever taken. This famous fashion editor, wrote the piece. And then she called and said, guys, Monday, you're on WWD. Make sure you buy the paper. And that was the moment when I said, what do you mean the paper? She said, yeah, the paper. And I said, oh, but it's not W, the magazine? We were expecting the glossy fashion magazine that we loved. And she said, no, this is for WWD, the sister publication, which is a paper, and it's for the industry. And I felt so disappointed, both Roberto and I, because we thought that the paper was something like trade, and we wanted something high fashion. Consumer. And I remember that Carmen, the writer, said, Amedeo, you don't understand. Monday morning, every CEO of the luxury industry in America, in Paris, in Milan, in London, will know about you. They will read it on Monday because it's on their desk, and they will know about your new brand. So don't feel sorry. You're thank me. You are in the paper. And that's what happened. Next week, when it came out, we started to get calls from Neiman Marcus, Bergdorf Goodman, Saks Fifth Avenue, all the jewelry stores from the world, Harrods. It's been an incredible situation that will never happen. It could only happen in New York, and it happened in New York.
The American dream.
The American dream.
That's how we should title this episode of the podcast.
Absolutely.
Provided that it's still alive. We'll talk about it
We'll
later.
talk about it.
But let's finish this story, because it's nothing short than incredible.
So, we still didn't...
Now you have jewelry to sell. Is that correct?
Now we don't... We have we have a collection to sell.
You have a collection to sell, but not the jewelry yet.
But not the jewelry yet. And we're recognized, and we have the most incredible contacts with anybody. Every door was open for us. So the first ones to show up and invite us to their office is Neiman Marcus. Neiman Marcus is a famous department store in America, luxury department store, at the time, the most important in the world. very avant-garde. They would find they had all the best brands, but they would create the designers. They were the king makers. So they invite us to the offices, the New York offices, and there's the CEO, the fashion director, the buyers, everybody in the room. We show the collection. They're from Texas. So they were all so charming and so happy to meet these two Italian guys, the Italian boys. Oh my God. So it was all about laughing and joking and, very, very nice. And I was like, okay, we want in our stores. Do you have distribution yet? No, we don't have distribution. Perfect. Can you be the exclusive? We'll see. Then we discussed, they look at the jewelry, they were mesmerized, but they were really blown away. So it was not just the factor that we were cute and young and charming. The jewelry was probably something they were looking for, something new. So they take us to lunch after the meeting. The lunch is even more cordial and fun. And then at lunch, the buyer starts writing the order, the purchase order. And it was everything 20, 20, 20, 20, 20 for every store or the most important stores to launch. But the quantities were humongous. So instead of being excited about it, I was worried because oh my God, first of all, I didn't know how it worked. Like who's paying for what? Money was not our strength. So while Roberto was chatting away with some of the other ladies, I pull aside the buyer and say, listen, I need to tell you something. We have no money. So what you want is, a lot of gold. And we can't do this because they were pushing to launch for spring. I remember also, this is funny, when they said, can you deliver for spring? I had no idea what that meant. It was like a, climate reference, meteorological thing.
What is
She said, it's spring season, and we need it by March in the stores. It was and this was January probably. I said, well, I couldn't understand. I said, and then I said, I have no money. How do we do this? So he said, okay, let me talk to Lisa, she was the boss. And tomorrow I'll call you. They didn't call the next day.
Okay.
But I received a FedEx envelope. And it wasn't an envelope. I never saw them again. It was narrow, long FedEx app. I opened this envelope and there's a note from Neiman Marcus saying, Dear Amedeo and Roberto, pleasure to have met you and to have you on board. Please start production ASAP, as soon as possible. And then behind the note, a check, a Neiman Marcus check, handwritten.
For how much?
For almost $300,000. I think it was $280,000. We couldn't believe it.
You buy a lot of gold back then.
You would buy a lot of gold, but also it was like having an investor. Now you call these an equity investor. It wasn't
without giving them any equity.
Without anything. There was no, how should I say, today they would call it due diligence.
Yeah.
Nothing. Two guys, their personality, few jewelry pieces, an amazing story, and handwritten check from a major company. Now, it wouldn't happen. It doesn't happen. It will not happen anymore. I tell young students when I go and talk and do talks in universities, don't think this will happen again. Maybe in a different way, but not that way. Anyway, with this check, we deposited the check in the bank. I remember jumping in the street, walking to the bank, and really literally singing and deposit the check. And then we book the first flight out to Italy and to make jewelry. To find actually, it was even more complex. It's another episode, looking for factories to make that jewelry.
Oh, this makes a great next episode. But let's stick to the success of the brand in New York. So you finally delivered the jewelry, and then what happens? Did people like it?
So we finally delivered the jewelry. At the same time, we had, worked with magazines. They all interviewed. We have so much press. I remember saying like we have more press than money and distribution, because we were on every magazine, W, Vogue, every magazine possible in the fashion luxury industry. We started being invited to fashion parties and fashion shows. Then we started collaboration almost immediately with Carolina Herrera, and which lasted 5 years. We designed a fine jewelry couture collection for Carolina Herrera. It was called Faraone Mennella for Carolina Herrera. We did a collaboration for Swarovski for their major event called Swarovski Rocks, and we designed our Stella collection in all Swarovski stones. Fantastic. And for a fashion show. We started to work with other stylists for movies and TV shows. It was a whirlwind. I remember, actually, this is the best story, is when we were nominated for a very prestigious award, which is the Rising Star Award of the Fashion Group International. And this is something that we had no idea about. We get the nomination, and we're invited to this luncheon at the Hilton Hotel, where the award ceremony was being held. So we go there the day of, and in the same category, in different categories, but in the same season, same time, there was other young, inspiring designers and among us. So it was Faraone Mennella, because this is the Rising Star Award. And as other rising stars were Tom Brown, Prenza Schooler, Philip Lee, Alexander Wang. I mean, now they're major brands. Dylan Lauren, Ralph Lauren's daughter, for retail, because she had a candy store, Dylan's Candies. So, and we were up for the jewelry award. The thing is, we didn't know that we had not won, but we were just the nominees. And so there were other 3 or 4 nominees in the same category. So Roberto, being very peculiar, said, I don't want to go. I don't want to be there and be the loser. And I was like, come on, Roberto, you need to be a sport. We're going there. No. And we had a major fight. We have a major fight because he said, we are outsiders. We always called ourselves the outsiders. I don't want to be in place with other designers and then be the one that doesn't win and then the loser. I don't want to be there. We have our own thing. We could do our own thing. We don't have to compete with anybody. So I was very embarrassed. And because I was very embarrassed, I did go. I said, fine. And I thought he would actually come after. But he didn't. So I arrived there and immediately noticed by the organizers, they're very, very nervous that Roberto wasn't there. It's like, why is Roberto? Oh, he's not feeling well. He's going to come. I was like, he's coming. He's at the office. The office wasn't far away. So I'm sitting there, and during the award ceremony and the luncheon, and then they start, giving the other awards. Jewelry was probably the last. So they started fashion, accessories, this and that. All the big names, everybody was there. Everybody, because all the major designers were there presenting the award to the young ones, the rising stars. It's coming. When they realize Roberto's not coming, they keep coming. They keep coming to set the organizers, like, where is Roberto? Why is Roberto not? At this point, by their nervous approach, I realized that probably we had won. But they wouldn't tell me. So I call Roberto. I go outside, I call him, I said, please, you need to come. I think, and they lied to him. I said, no, I told you I'm not coming. I was like, no, we won. They told me. I said, they told you? Yes. They told me, like, okay, I'm coming. So he ran 5 blocks. He wasn't even dressed for the occasion, but thank God he was so handsome. So he arrives 5 minutes until Robert Lee Morris, very famous jewelry designer, an American icon, is presenting the award. And then the famous, and the award goes, and the winner is Faraone Mennella, Amedeo Scognamiglio, Roberto Faraone Mennella, for Faraone Mennella. So everybody's clapping. We go up on stage. We haven't had anything prepared. We say something. I don't even remember who we thanked. I do remember we thanked our grandmothers, our nonnas. And then we take this award. And that's been the first award of a few, but very meaningful, because we were part of the fashion aristocracy of New York at that point. We were with, and I have these pictures of me with Parsons Schooler and Tom Brown. It's like an amazing things, and he won the Rising Star that moment. So, you know, those are the few pillars of our career that I can't really envision as the pivotal moments of a career, because then everything else gets lost in the memories. But few things are very, very, very meaningful.
I'm mesmerized, to say the least, hearing this. I knew the story. I've been knowing you for 20 years, but every time I hear or you add new details, it's really unbelievable. Now, Amedeo, Roberto is no longer with us today.
Yes.
But you carry the legacy.
Yes.
What's next for Faraone Mennella?
So, unfortunately, like all beautiful stories, fairy tales, we lived an amazing life, Roberto and I. And then from that 2001, building the brand has been our life, our baby, our child, our family. People working with us have been our family. We sort of like stopped almost spending time with our families, because I have to say, unfortunately, both our families weren't supportive of us, both personally and even for the business. Even when the business, the most hurtful thing probably, especially for Roberto, he was very, very, very sensitive. But even for me, that even when we were extolled by the press and some incredible things, or we've been interviewed on CNN or Italian famous newspapers, or you know, fashion shows with Carolina Herrera, incredible situations. We never get our first bravo from our families. They would just not prefer not to talk about it.
Why?
In both cases, both families didn't see this as what they wanted from us. And they think that the reason we built a company and a successful brand was also because the initial motivation was to stay together. When we started the company, was not to start a business, but was finding a way to stay together in New York, away from Italy. So it was really based out of love. And probably that was the reason why both our families didn't want to bless that reason behind it. And so pretending to ignore the company successes, for example, they were ignoring our personal relationship. And that was really an eye-opener in a way, but also something we dealt with by, who cares? We live in New York, we have our own life and our own business, and this is it. You know, like, we don't need them anyway. They didn't give us money, they didn't help us, so that's it. And so
that's such a beautiful thing, because the luxury industry should always be a product of love and imagination and emotions. If you take the emotions and the love, what's left?
And that we see it very much these days.
And we see it very much these days.
With, you know, this financial operations to creating, you can't inject a fake love in a brand. You can inject the cool factor. Also, the cool factor is something you cannot buy. You cannot create with even the most sophisticated marketing strategies and agencies. You can't.
And it's quite remarkable how you mentioned more than once that you were following signs, and those signs are not tangible. It's not something you learn at business school.
Exactly. You can't teach that. We're talking about these years have been amazing. I mean, they took us from, we started to open our own shops. I always said that we opened shops so that Roberto could finally fulfill his frustrated aspiration to be an architect, because he wanted to be an architect. So it's like, okay, we open shops so Roberto can design them. And so we opened in New York, 2 shops in New York, and in London, and in Porto Cervo in Sardinia, and then in Capri, 2 shops. And then our showrooms, beautiful showrooms in New York. Everybody still asks me like, oh, I remember your beautiful showroom on 5th Avenue near Tiffany. Amazing. I mean, architecturally amazing. So this was our life. And then, you know, interviews by every possible magazine. And we've been covered by every possible magazine and newspaper in the world. Until we started even our TV career on QVC. We took the challenge. This was also like a sign, following a sign, because when we got approached by QVC and Home Shopping Network to launch a secondary line, a fashion jewelry line on TV, I was immediately, yes, let's do it. I love the camera. But Roberto was like very hesitant, because like, no, and then a lot of voices around us, no, you're going to dilute the brand, it's bad for you. But to be honest, I was thinking even about the money. I was like, you know, we support ourselves. We don't have investors. This is a huge business. And we're going to go in every household of America at the time. And that's exactly what happened. It was not only a huge success, huge business, but it made us become like almost like a mainstream, you know, in a household name. Because now our clients, billionaire clients who spend $100,000 on a necklace, they were the first ones so happy to see us on TV. I remember once one of them from Texas called in, and she bought, you know, to call in on this TV shopping network, especially in America, was such a, you know, everybody remembers the movie Joy. Yeah. They need to be a buyer, they need to be a shopper. So you first buy, and then they put you through, and it's live TV. And when I heard her talk, it's like, oh, I love Roberto Amadeo's jewelry. I've been always like a big, and I realized, I said, oh my God, is this Josie? And she said, yes, it's me. Like, I said, I'm sorry. Josie has amazing collection, but not of the fashion jewelry. She has an amazing collection of high jewelry for Mennella. She was happy. And we did everything like outsiders. Others wouldn't do it because they said, oh no, it's too snob, you know, to do TV. And no, that actually helped the fine jewelry business and even made the brand stronger because wider.
And it's contrary to any marketing guidelines or even common sense. But I think what made you win in this case is the genuinity behind this.
Yes.
I mean, you are the brand. The two of you were the brand. The creativity, the love, the passion, the intimacy,
yes.
the dream, the project, the life merged with the business, everything. So
I'll tell you something. Recently, I read about this study called Spain, S-P-A-N-E.
Okay.
So doctors in Germany, they wanted to study the power of frequencies of our emotions. So they took some people, they put the electrodes on their heads, and they followed their emotions. So some people were angry, some people were happy, some people were sad, regret, every sort of emotions on thousands of people. They wanted to see the frequency, right? Our frequency is a power, it's an energy. And what was the strongest emotion? Everybody's very surprised to find out that the most powerful emotion at a frequency level is not love. Everybody thinks it's love. It's authenticity. Authenticity.
Wow.
And you know why? Because to get to authenticity, you need to pass by love, through love.
Define authenticity.
Authenticity is being yourself.
Being yourself.
And being yourself, not feeling anything else, not wanting to look anything else.
But how do you know you're being yourself as a designer, as an entrepreneur?
It's very difficult because to be
you have many interferences, isn't it?
Yes, everything can impact
banks, investors, customers, employees.
You should do that. I get every day. You should do this, right?
Yes, me too.
Every day, even from friends. Why don't you do this? You should do that. No, I do what I feel. What makes me feel happy, and content, and comfortable. If it makes me feel comfortable, why should I do something else? How can I succeed if I'm doing something that feels uncomfortable to me? It's impossible. It's contrary to the scope of the work. And I think Roberto and I have been, and as I am still today, and it's also a practice, you stay authentic. You do what it's actually meant for you. You do what you feel, and you do what you want to do, what makes you feel happy. And we did that for 20 years.
And the brand is still alive. And what is Roberto saying from above, since you know how
Roberto
to
talks
interpret
to me
signs?
all the time from above.
What is he saying now?
Roberto is happy and is pushing me to keep it alive, the brand. Because my first emotion when Roberto passed, my first idea was to shut it down. Because I felt like without him, there's no more purpose. I mean, we started this as a way to stay together. Why should I do this now? And I thought I didn't know how to do it because we always did this together. And as in every design duo team, there's always this thing that everybody thinks like one does one thing, the other one does the other. We always got this question, like who's the creative, who's the business? Are you the business? And it's funny because each of us would get a little bit offended somehow because Roberto, in different ways, everybody assumed that Roberto, being so sensitive, so chic, so elegant, so beautiful, and so creative, and also so demure, so very discreet, he was the creative. And Amedeo, so kind of like Italian, ballsy, and sort of outspoken and extroverted, be the businessman. Also because I was almost the voice for him, megafono.
Yes.
But the reality was different. Actually, you never have to look, judge from the appearance. We were one thing. And every single decision, every single movement was done at the unison. And even in designing, obviously, one has to start something, right? It can be like at the same time. So, but if I design something or Roberto designs something, then either one of us would say like, what do you think? And if the other one would say, there was always this thing like, yeah, it's nice, but it's not us, right? It's beautiful, but it's not Faraone Mennella, or it's too like this. So there would be a convergence. But even in the business, we never been in disagreement about anything, business, strategy, scope, really about the identity of our business, of our design. Then we would fight every day like two Italian, hot-blooded. You would hear screaming as, the new employees had to be reassured. It was like, no, that's normal. In 5 minutes, they're going to go out for coffee. But, for example, we had a sprawling, beautiful showroom, huge, two full floors on 5th Avenue, 57th Street, right? At one point, when we grew very fast. We grew very fast in a few years. Out of this gigantic space, Roberto and I shared a small room. That was our office. Everybody else has his own office, multiple computers, beautiful open spaces and kitchen, this and that.
But not the two of you.
We wanted one office, and Roberto wanted one desk like this one, and our computers had to be back to back. Once I tried, actually, to move my desk to add a desk in the room and for matter space, he was so upset. He went back to the office. He saw this movement. He was like, no, we're not. We have one where he needed to see me on the other side of his computer. So Roberto passed on to heaven on June 4th, 2020. It was the most tragic moment of my life. Unfortunately, I can't even say that was the most tragic moment because, when somebody dies after a very long, painful disease like cancer, so there's many tragic moments from the moment you get diagnosed to the first chemotherapy and side effects of that. And every moment a doctor tells you something, you think that it's going to be something tragic. I mean, you live in constant stress. But the moment Roberto left, I didn't know what to do. So it was during COVID as well. So business was very slow or stopped, paused. So I thought that I wouldn't continue. I didn't want to. I would continue Amedeo with my Cameos. But Faraone Mennella for me was impossible without Roberto. How is Faraone Mennella? You know, it's Roberto and Amedeo. It's the boys. It's the Golden Boys. It's the Italian boys.
Of course.
And but I have to thank my close team, our close team in our studio in Italy, Luigi and Michele and Anna and Francesco, who pulled me aside and said, "You're coming to the office on Monday. You have to come to the office. You have to come to work. This is not, we're not finishing. We start again on Monday as any Monday." Because Roberto had a huge, incredible work discipline. And he said, this is exactly what he wanted. We're not stopping. And so I did. I went to the office on Monday. We started to work as if the guys were working at the bench. We were working in the office, looking at reports and new jewelry to make, and deciding whether to open the store again in Capri for the summer. And we all went. I said, I'm not going by myself. You have to go with me. And we all took the boat, go to the island, and looked at the store. And we decided to reopen, although it was COVID, basically. And I remember all of them painting and cleaning and dusting. They should have not done that. And it was all in memory of Roberto. And there was a sign to things. Roberto used to say always, the show must go on.
The show must go on.
And the show is on. The only difference, though, for me, is that now it's, before it was a business with a dream. Now it's a business with a purpose. And the purpose is to give credit to Roberto's life and talent, help other young designers. I established recently a scholarship with Savannah College of Art and Design in America, which is a beautiful university and design college with a very strong jewelry faculty, with which we collaborated many times with lectures, and we visited many times. It was beautiful. And I remember the first time we went, Roberto said, I wish we only knew about this and wish we would have come here instead of law school. And so I decided to support young jewelry students, hopefully not just with a scholarship, with money, but with mentorship, because it's very difficult. It's a business with no tracks to get on, and you want to become a jewelry designer. What do you do? I mean, that's not, Sarah Jessica Parker is not going to call you every day and everyone randomly. So it's good to know somebody that tells you the pros and the cons, right? So this is the purpose, and this is a way to memorialize a beautiful story, a beautiful love, and then a beautiful person that is no longer with us.
What an incredible story, Amedeo. And the more I hear it, the more I think we should call it the American dream. But I sense that the American dream is over from what I read in the news and the way the world is going, but also because I see you here in Dubai. Lux Friends, this new season of Lux Friends is being recorded live from Dubai. And you spend a significant amount of time every year here in Dubai. Why is that?
I happily moved to Dubai, and I'm happily a resident of Dubai 2 years now. And Dubai makes me happy. It makes me happy for many reasons. Of course, when Roberto died, I struggled to think where I would go and live again after even COVID. I did not want to move back immediately to New York for obvious reasons. Too many memories, too sad for me. And so I was considering a few options until I got this opportunity. A dear friend and a client who said, "What? Just, you know, it's like the song, Habibi, come to Dubai." And I said, "How do I do that?" And they took care of me. They showed me the way, and I moved. Dubai for me is happiness, positivity. I don't see any downside. I don't see any. I'm not scared of anything.
Has the American dream moved here?
I have to say that the American dream, or that dream, is here now. It's not in America, and it's sad for me. It's bittersweet, And it's not because I'm not permanently in New York anymore, but unfortunately, those opportunities, those circumstances are not around anymore. And New York is not the land of opportunities anymore, or America, because the banking system's changed. For example, it's not that easy to go there and get a bank loan, right?
No.
So how do you start a business? I'll tell you something else. In our industry, in the luxury industry, the way we started our business was because big companies, actually, not small, Saks Fifth Avenue, Bergdorf Goodman, even Harrods, they would pay for the product. They would find young designers, support them in the only one possible way, buying their product and paying in advance, or timely at least. Now, all those companies being financially run by private equity funds or hedge funds or investors of sorts kind, they are not merchants anymore. And I'm very bitter about it. So being not merchants and just thinking about their profits, their margins, and their numbers, they're not looking at nurturing new designers. And at the same time, that's what I blame them for, they're not looking at the happiness of their clients. Because their clients is not in their mind. It's just numbers. The bottom line. So when you just think of numbers, how can you create luxury thinking about margins of 1%, 2%? No, you cannot create new luxury, new brands, new designers. So they become malls with big brands, which are owned by bigger brands or bigger funds. So it's just like a cookie cutter. And there's no space for young designers, which means there's no space for creativity. Faraone Mennella wouldn't be born today in America. Amedeo and Roberto, those two young designers like Amedeo and Roberto, if they moved to New York now, they would just go back with their hands in the pocket, in empty pockets.
Maybe they could make it in Dubai.
But they could make it in Dubai. Because in Dubai, there's vision. In Dubai, there are merchants. They're large companies, but they're run by families.
They are.
And those families are wise and very visionary merchants who are looking for the new thing, the new product, the new way to actually provide customer service and provide a true experience for their clients. And they're actually the face of the company. So they want to look good. Of course, on the other side, there is an opportunity, banking opportunity, financial opportunities, even the cost of living. As much as everybody wants to say that Dubai is expensive, yes, if you go to lunch at Cipriani and dinner in Namos every day, it will be expensive. Hello, but if not, if you want to live a very happy life, the quality of life is tremendously, dramatically superior to all the big cities in the Western world at a very much lower cost of living, like rentals. And even if prices are rising, I hear now,
they are. Probably
15 years ago was much different situation, but still much lower than everything else, which helps young people to move and to strive and to start a new business, a new idea, being creative, being artistic. So I think, and we were talking about this, that Dubai right now has everything. But very soon we will see in Dubai the rise of the cool crowd, which will make the hype and the artistic and the really creative homegrown, exactly, that will actually close the circle, and Dubai will be the center of the world.
Speaking of places, before we say arrivederci, because this is not addio, this is arrivederci, we have many more conversations to do because there's so much to speak about, Amedeo. But speaking of places, I think we cannot truly and fully understand your body of work without mentioning Capri.
Yes. How did I forget that? No.
You didn't. You mentioned it a few times, but for our audience to envision, can I say your essence as a creative?
Yes. The core of our brand, of our design, the inspiration, the true inspiration now is Capri. It used to be New York, And for the last 11 years has been Capri. And Capri was a point of return as well, you know, going back home, because that's where Roberto and I used to vacation as kids. And even before starting the company, coming back from New York, we have beautiful pictures of us in our early 20s in Capri on holidays in August or in July. And the dream for any designers actually to showcase its brand. But for us, it's different because we're a local brand. Where, you know, 0 miles. Sometimes I joke with clients, like, this jewelry has been made like 5 miles away. So Capri is the inspiration, is a beautiful place, is the place of my heart, it's the place, it's a very small island. But everybody from all over the world passes through over the summer months. So I sit there at a coffee shop in the piazza and I will meet everybody that I know from Singapore to Beverly Hills and everything in the middle. Yeah. And I am gladly a big part of the island, with our big party every year that I keep doing, even after Roberto, host so many friends from all over the world. And that made Capri now the home of Faraone Mennella. Faraone Mennella now is really Capri brand, not New York. New York has been amazing for us, but the jewelry is made in almost in Capri on the coast. Capri is our flagship store, and it's the place where you'll find me from June to September every day, and everybody loves to see me there.
I wish to attend one of those parties.
Pack your bags, because it's coming around.
Amedeo Scognamiglio, grazie mille
Carlo.
for being with me on Lux Friends.
Thank you very much for the friends and the Lux.
Cool!
Next!